Those are the 7 posing guides that I use. These next ones are stuff that I hardly ever break. These are like my studs of a building, per se, okay? Pose the eyes, crucial. I've seen so many times we post a beautiful picture and the eyes are in the wrong place. Let me give you an example. This is going to be a little awkward for you guys. Get your noses about an inch from each other and look at him in the eye. Does that look really creepy?
Yeah.
Does that look like, why are you in my personal space and why are we looking at each other? Now, turn your head down, Kisya, and look at his shoulder. And Matt, look at her lips. Okay, does that look better? Mm-hmm. You totally took that tension away. Yeah. When you're on somebody's personal bubble, people don't look at each other because once you enter personal bubble, you become vulnerable. Looking at each other, it's like going against the grain. Go ahead and look at each other again. That looks really weird. Yet I see this happen all the time. When I see them really close, like they're looking at each other, I'm like, why? Why are you doing that? Like, it's so weird. Why not, like, keep that position? Why not, like, look at his shoulder over here, look at her lips, smile at that shoulder, make it look, it's really funny, and see, look, smile at her lips because she's laughing really funny, and take a picture, and it looks super clean. When you enter personal bubble, the eyes have to be opposing each other, one higher than the other, kind of like the hands. Okay, so thank you, guys. Thank you. Hey. Pose there. Ooh, invisible plane angle check. This is like the coolest one ever. So where is my camera? I don't have one. Okay. So here's my camera. And I'm going to take a picture. Can you turn sideways to me? Can you lean your body like this against me? The other way. So back to, yeah, that way. There you go. Okay, here's my camera. And I'm going to shoot this invisible plane. And this plane's going to shoot out of my lens. The goal of this invisible plane when it shoots out of my camera is to hit the person's eyes first. Okay? Don't hit the person's knees and shoulders and love handles and all these other things. Like, the goal, and by the way, you can't always do this, but you can try your hardest. That when here's your camera, here's your lens. So you take a picture, click, and you go boom, and you're shooting, and this invisible plane comes out, and it shoots, and it hits the groom. And it's about 9 inches away from his eyes. 9 inches is a lot of inches. You want to fix that right away. You want to make it like 4 inches or less. So turn your body towards me, and then turn that shoulder this way, just a tad. Right there, not that much. Right there. Now look at this. Camera, shoot, shoot, boom, 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 bam. Right on the chin, I'm about 2.5 inches from the eyes. Now let's mess this up. Bring your chin up like you're a gangster. Totally gangster. There you go. Okay? Take your camera, shoot, boom, 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 come on. And you hit the groom. Now you are 4 or 5 inches from his eyes. You made him look like a gangster by separating. He's like mad dogging you or something. So how do you fix it? Bring the eyes back towards me and lean your body slightly towards the camera. Boom. See how much better it looks? Now look at this. I'm going to be, let's pretend I don't know what I'm doing or whatever. I'm going to take the angle from here, okay? I'm going to shoot, and I'm going to just shoot this invisible plane, and it comes out, and it comes out. And this is about 4 inches. It's pretty acceptable, okay? Any more than that, it starts to become distracting. So what I would do to get the ultimate attention on the person you're trying to shoot, choose the angle that's going to hit the eye first, or try to. You can't always do it, but you can try. So here's the angle. Let's see. So it's right here. So boom, comes out, and it hits him right in the eye. That make sense? This explains why when you pose someone, Can you, Matt, sit on this chair, on this wood table? See how they're sitting back and they're kind of chilling, leaning?
Yeah.
Go ahead and do that. Just lean back. Okay, like that. Okay. You're photographing, you're becoming an expert photographer. You're going to know how to pose everything you want. What angles do you choose for this? He's leaning against the camera. So if I was to shoot from here, and I was going to shoot it this way, I'm going to launch this little invisible plane. And look, it's going to hit his knee. How many inches from his eyes is his knee? Like 30 inches now? That's a horrible angle. So what you want to do, come this way, shoot it, and now you get rid of the knee, and you hit him in the eye, and his knee is now out of focus. So it's no longer the center of attention. That makes sense? Now lean forward. Now that he leaned forward, now you can lower your angle. You don't have to shoot it from up here anymore. You can keep it this way, and I can now stand here, lean forward a little bit more, just like that, chill, shoot, and success. That's not too much success. That's going to bring the knee as the foreground of the photo. That's not the eyes. That's not that interesting. That make sense? Okay, thank you. This is the one we're all going to work on today, pretty heavily. The face of your subject should be the brightest part of the photo. You can't always achieve that, but you can always try to at least match the brightness level. If you have a cool background and it's really bright and you put your subjects in there and you don't light them up separately, they become equally lit as your background. You're giving no separation whatsoever. Does that make sense? The face of your subjects should be the brightest point. When we photograph today, we're going to take photos. We're going to light up their faces first. We're going to think about that first. Okay? Nose, the X factor for the nose. Pretend that Kezia here has like a little pointing, like 10 feet long nose, okay? So the nose, imagine this little point that comes out. If you look at the groom again, and face each other again, totally next to each other, that little point is actually matching his point. That little invisible line is matching his invisible line. And they're going against each other. They're kind of hitting each other. You want to change the noses so the little line and his line creates and connect somewhere. It creates like an X. So, Mallory, try this. Come up here. Just change the direction of their heads to make sure that the little invisible line out of the noses become a cross. You can touch them all you want. You can also instruct them, and they can probably live.
Oh, yeah. And then tilt your head the opposite way as he's going.
Okay, there you go. Looks a lot better, doesn't it? So whenever you have the noses pointing, it's going to be better. Now, here's another one that comes up a lot. You try to get the noses to be crisscross each other at some point. If you do this pose, it might look a little on the cheesy side. Let me explain. Bring your nose, Matt, and point your nose towards that light. Now, let's make the nose lines parallel to each other, and you'll see how cheesy it looks. And I love cheese, don't get me wrong. All kinds of cheese, especially the Spanish oily ones. But this is like blue cheese. It's like too much. You know what I mean? Turn your nose towards that light again. More? It's like, oh, it's like looking at your unborn children together or something. See what I mean? Doesn't that look a little bit kind of like too contrived and kind of like you're trying to pose too much? So if he's looking that way, maybe she can look down at his collarbone. Maybe she can tilt her forehead against his upper cheekbone. Maybe he can tilt his chin down a little bit. Maybe he can magnetize his head towards her just a tad. And you start to create energies that match. Thank you, thank you. Subject emphasis is probably the most important bullet out of all the bullets. Okay? Let's talk about that real quick. If Kezia is your subject, you have 3 ways to create subject emphasis. The first way is through light. make her the brightest part of your photo. The second way is through size. Make her the biggest part of your photo. And the third way is through selective focus points. So you do selective focus. So you focus on her and everything else goes out of focus. So 3 ways. When we do the photo shoot today, I'm going to ask you, which of the 3 ways are you using to create subject emphasis? Okay, thank you. Be specific when you pose. Don't say things like, can you look out the window and look happy? Like, can you, be specific. Like, say, look at that car and love that car. Just love that car. Just kidding. Be specific on where you're telling them to do. Don't give them general directions. They want to know exactly where they are going to be. After you're done with all this, you're going to be injecting feeling, expression, and multiple points of interaction. The multiple points of interaction is where you place the hands, where you place the heads. That's multiple points of touch, of interaction. The feeling and expression is how you talk to them to create them to laugh or smile. Okay? Thank you. Take a look at Keisha real quick. Now bring your eyes, Keisha, to the left. Just your eyes. Yeah. Does that look like she's a bit annoyed? Mm-hmm. Now bring your eyes down at the rug where my shoe is and smile at the rug as I am. Good. Now smile a little more at that rug. Does that look like she's in this little tender moment of vulnerability and shyness? Mm-hmm. Now look up and to the right and smile with your like that. Does that look like she's a bit surprised and like she was taken off guard? Now, I don't know what camera we're looking at, but look at her eyeballs, look at her iris, and move your eyes, just follow my finger with your iris, move them. You see how you see like 90% white eyeball and only 5% iris? Mm-hmm. That's like the ghost image, it's very scary. You need to remember the percentage of the eyes versus the iris. If you want a good photo, you're gonna have some iris in there. Yeah. Having this just eyeball, just right there where the eye should be, it's very scary, okay? So there's a whole art to where the eyes are gonna be. Now check out the eyelids now. Open up your eyes all the way, so bring your chin down, and just chin down and look at a higher vantage point. See how I just opened up her entire eyelid? Right? Now watch this, bring your chin up and look down at the desks. You see how now it's about a quarter closed? Now look, chin up more, and look at something. Now you see how it's 3/4 closed? Now look at my hands, or close your eyes. That's all the way closed. All of this is gonna give you hundreds or thousands of combinations of feelings. If you want the girl to look romantic like she's feeling the moment, you're gonna have to show more eyelid. If you want her to look surprised because he kissed her on the cheek and it's like a fun, energetic pose, you're gonna have to open up the eyelid and turn the eyeball to the top right or top left. This is the problem. We have a pose and we don't think about the eyes. We cannot let the eyes fall wherever they may be, okay? We'll go more over this tomorrow, okay? At the end of the day, you wanna know if your pose is believable or not. Now that we know all this, let's go through these photos real quick. We're not gonna be able to do all of them, but we're gonna go through some, okay? I want to remind the audience that these are photos that they are not happy with and they need help with. So by no means think that this is the work that they're proud of. Okay. Now that we saw this, let's start to put this together. Let me open this. Are the subjects the brightest part of this photo? No. Are they inside the obvious frame?
Yes.
Right? Now, there is a bit of a balance here. This section here is the most contrasting section of the location because of these dark plants with these these white walls, right? Mm-hmm. If the couple was closer to this, it would be much, much more left heavy. But because the couple is more this way, it created a little bit of balance, okay? If you're gonna have the couple look at the camera, you're not going to create that flawless romantic type of, it's more like, here we are. That's the feeling. It's here we are. If you want to get your work to look more like it just happened, this beautiful moment just happened, you're going to have to get their eyes away from the camera, like looking towards each other or some part of each other, okay? Another thing is, how many distracting elements do you see in the background here? Do you see how, even though the wall has a cool texture to it, it's actually working against you? You want a piece, you want to choose a part, like how about choosing this part? This part is a seamless color. There's no distractions. How about getting closer and photographing them in just this clean background right here? Then you will remove all doubt that your bride and groom are the most important part of the photo. So you have a major problem here with subject emphasis. And you do that in 3 ways. Do you remember the 3 ways?
Light.
They have to be the brightest,
Size.
the biggest, or
Focus selection.
or they have to be the one in focus, okay? Let me, okay, Juliana, let's talk about the hands. What do you see in the hands that could be fixed?
The hands
Yeah,
be a little bit softer on the bright.
you see his knuckles,
Oh.
you don't see it, but his knuckles are close. They're having like a 90-degree angle going on in this hand. What's going on here?
We don't see much of the arm showing.
You don't see where the
The
origin of the
origin
hand
of
is
the
coming from.
hand.
You see how all this starts to come out? Okay, you see this creepy crawler hand just coming out of nowhere. You have no arm, okay?
Right.
Also, she's actually slouching her back to get to him. She's not standing
Straight.
straight, which is creating this entire like problem in her left, you know? Okay? It looks like they're kind of looking at each other and they're inside a personal bubble. Personal space means they don't. If somebody's in your personal space, your natural reaction is to be shy about it and you look down and smile. Okay? Looking at each other looks like, what is he looking at?
He's looking straight at her.
It's kind of weird. It kind of makes you look, okay? This is actually something that's pretty well done, except it's not the brightest part. This photo has subject emphasis again problem, in the sense that all of this is just a lot brighter than they are. However, this is well done in the sense that this frame actually kind of blurs into the foreground and it draws your eye into the bride and groom. But when you use frames that are very obvious, it actually takes away from your bride and groom. This one kind of goes out of focus. You see that? It kind of goes out of focus. Now the arms are at a 90-degree angle, except her right shoulder, it dominates. So you need to lower that shoulder down and bring it back. So to not get this big bulge coming out of her shoulder, okay? Okay, what's the brightest part of this photo? The sky. Also, do you notice all of these little spotches of sun and shadow? Those spotches become, your eye wants to kind of go to this to see what that is. It's trying to figure out, is that like some sort of obstacle? Like, do I have to watch out for that obstacle? Like if I walk by that? Your brain gets cautious when it sees something like that. So whenever you have spots of sun and shadow in the grass, don't you show the grass, okay? It's kind of like wearing a striped shirt when you're doing a family portrait. Like the stripes just distract you from what you want because your eye goes right to the shirt. Does that make sense? This is like the striped shirt in the background. I'm going to talk a little bit about this later, maybe more tomorrow, but you have the 3 sections. Section 1, which looks really beautiful. Section 2, the brown section, is kind of like totally in the way. And section 3 is the grass section with the stripes. What's the best section out of the 3? The top. So if you were to make them taller, just pretend you can make them, or lower your angle, right? If you were to lower your angle, this, obviously I cannot do it correctly because the pose is, this becomes the more attractive. Obviously, they have to be more of them, But this becomes more attractive because this gets lost in the background and it doesn't introduce another color tone. Does that make sense? Okay. Remember the invisible plane that we talked about? Okay, what's hitting the couple first when you shoot this invisible plane towards the couple? The first thing you hit is the arm and the leg. You see how that draws your eye into that part of the body? Is that what you want? Not at all. How could you have fixed this, Mallory?
Shoot, like you said, where the plane is hitting the eye first.
Right, so if you could have kept the pose and just raised your angle so when you shoot that invisible plane, it hits the eye first. See, David, what I mean? Yes. And it becomes a lot more emphasis on the eyes. The background is pretty good. Why is the background good?
It's 3 colors.
One color.
It's same color family. It's all greens and yellows and dark greens. So it turns out okay. Okay? But there's a lot of problems here, and the main problem is that this is just hitting them right in the leg and the arm, and there's a 90-degree angle in her hand. You see how strong kind of looks weird?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, look at this one. What colors pop out at you?
Red.
Green and blue.
Red, green, and blue. Do you even, it's almost, because this photographer chose the angle properly, you can still see her eyes, right? But if this angle wasn't properly done, it would just be a big smudge of red, green, and blue. Okay? One thing that helps me understand how this works, I open the photos in Photoshop, or I blur the photos. I go to filter, I go to, I go to blur, and then I go to Gaussian blur. Now you can see how distracting the colors really become in the frame. So now you see the green just dominates, right? And the person is just kind of there. Let me give you an example of, let's look at this is a pretty good one. Now let's blur this. Now you can get rid of the good-looking guy, and what's left? You see this big square of white going around? Now if you have that, how can you fix it? This, to me, is extremely distracting in the photograph. The way you can fix it is by putting even more light on his face. Make his face the brighter part of the scene. Right now, this is winning. Remember I told you how locations are like, it's like challenging you all the time. It's like, oh, and you have to kind of beat it, okay? On the other hand, his elbows are bent, his body's shifted properly, right?
The pattern on top.
And yeah, and it's a clean pattern at the top, correct. Okay, they're inside their personal bubble, aren't they? And they're looking at each other. First problem, it looks too forced. Second problem is, because he's so much taller than her, for her to look at him, she has to basically like break her neck to do so. She's kind of like really, that's not natural and finessed and elegant. So work with your weaknesses and turn them into strengths. If she is shorter, have her embrace his chest and have a moment where she's kind of looking down. Does that make sense? So you have them going this way instead of trying to look at his eyes. If you're this close to each other, you don't have to have them look at each other. It looks really weird. You see the arm is totally straight and it's not bent at all. It just looks like monkey arm. So you have monkey arm going on the left, and you have creepy fingers coming out of nowhere, and you have no origin of those fingers. I tell you this over and over, so when you do the photo shoot, you're going to be like, creepy fingers, invisible plane. The weight is not shifted. They're too close to each other. I'm not going to have them look at each other because it's going to look creepy. If I'm going to have him turn his head towards her, it's going to be using the pivot point of the spinal cord, not hunching over. Okay, all of these things. Okay, remember I talked about mirroring each other, creating mirrors? Remember I talked about mirrors? This is basically like a carbon copy of everybody's doing the same exact thing. It looks very much like you have no ups and downs. You have no contrasts. One way to fix this is to have somebody with his arms over somebody else, one person turned, one person turned the other way, create contrasts in the people, and it will make much more interesting pose than everybody just stand there and hold your flowers. Okay? And not to mention everybody's collarbones are facing straight at the camera. And the brides and the grooms, most of them, are not even shifting their body weight. Some people are, but a lot of the girls are not. They're just kind of standing there. So look how much broader they look. You broaden their body. Have their leg turned towards the other leg. So have her left leg or the right leg wrap around the other leg, and it creates this feminine angle of the leg, and you can see it through the dress. It looks much more finessed. Okay. All right, here we go. Does this pose make sense? What is he doing? You know he's kind of looking in her direction, but why is he there? Is he behind? Has he not walked towards her fast enough? Like, is he falling behind? What's he doing? Most importantly is, are they the brightest part of the photo? Are they what's in focus? Or is everything in focus?
Everything.
See, subject emphasis. They have to be the brightest, they have to be the biggest, or they have to be the ones in focus. Right now, it's like a big parade of everything's in focus. We love everybody. See what I mean? Okay, if you were to shoot, David, the invisible plane out of your lens, what hits first?
Their elbows.
The elbows. You see that? How would you fix this?
Shoot from a higher angle.
Amen. Good job. I like it. You have a lot going, there's a lot going on here that's not working. This whole arm is taken away from where it should be. See what I mean? She's just way too tucked in there. You gotta separate her, have them separate, create. And also look at this. What are they doing?
Mirroring.
Remember we talked about mirroring? Yeah, big screen. They're mirroring each other. Okay? Oh, here's another one. What's wrong with this one?
She's hiding behind him.
It's the ratio. Here's the ratio problem. You have all the groom and 10% of the bride. So you basically separate the bride and create more of her body. Show more of her body, because right now you see this little sliver of her, but you see the entire groom. Does that make sense? So when I start having you pose the bride and groom, or the fashion models or whatever, because we're not gonna just do wedding stuff, I'm gonna put them in this position and I'll have you guys fix it. You need to identify what the problem is, okay, and fix it. Not to mention, she's slouching forward with her spine, not with her pivoting. She's actually going like this towards him. Okay? Expression-wise, how could we have improved? This is a beautiful photo, and they are looking at the camera like saying, yes, we are here. Now that you achieved that, what's another variation of this you could have done with their eyes? Or turning their heads or whatever? What would you do? Nikki, go ahead.
She could look at his shoulders, or he could look at her lips.
Exactly. Why not her eyes?
Because they're in their personal space bubble, and that's uncomfortable and weird.
It's only a problem if they're both looking at each other in the eyes. You can look at the eyes if you want to. I say things like, look at her lips, or look at the left eyebrow, to make it kind of funny.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
If you tell somebody, look at the third hair of the left eyebrow, they're gonna laugh. See, you're laughing right now.
Right.
But if you say, look at her eye, they'll just look at the eye, try to be models.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You can.
So until this becomes second nature and we can be really quick at this, what was your approach?
One by one.
If clients are in a rush, in a hurry, and there's, impatient with you posing them?
Well, unfortunately, you have to stick to your comfort zone, which is kiss, hug, kiss, and the fountain. See what I mean?
Right.
We're gonna be expanding things. For example, in this situation, this is a very important photo because you have patterns and repetitions through the cactus or the cacti, which is the proper term, right? But in this situation, you're also showing the rocks, you're also showing all of this going on. Not to mention, the invisible plane is hitting their knees first, not their heads. Second, they're not the brightest point of this photo. Third, whenever you have a pattern, it's a gift from the location. That location is telling you, you have a gift here. The gift is a pattern of cacti. That means your pose, whatever you do, has to only cover that pattern. Don't introduce sections that are not part of the pattern, because then you ruin the pattern. So the photo should have looked something like this. The photo should have been cropped something, obviously that's not the way I would crop it, but if I was shooting, this is what you want to introduce. You only want to introduce the pattern, and you want to make that more out of focus. So choose a more shallow depth of field, but this is a cleaner image. Like they stand out against the green a lot better than with all of this going on, especially because now your attention kind of goes to this area, not to their eyes. Okay? Is this helping you guys a lot at all?
Yeah.
Okay. If you're going to have someone sit on someone's lap or do a sitting pose, remove context. Let me repeat that. Oh my gosh, let me write this down. Remove context. Okay? Remove context. Not because it's all there means you have to show it all. Okay? Because now you have creepy hands going everywhere. You have creepy hand coming out of the butt, you have creepy hand coming out of the shoulder. What you probably want to do you can have her not look at the camera. You can have a moment with each other and crop it all out so the attention's right on their expression, right on their face. This is a major problem I think people have. They include too much context. Don't include the floor. You don't have to include the floor. You don't have to include the shoes. You can just be selective. You're supposed to be an artist. Be selective on what they want you to, what you want your viewers to see. Okay. This is the count the fingers game. When you have the hands, if you have bride and groom or fashion shoot or whatever, can you come right over here? Okay, go ahead and wrap your arms around him from the back. So go all the way back behind him and all the way back. Yeah. Uh-huh. How many fingers do you see right now? You can kind of handle it, right? But now how many fingers do you see? It's like, you need like a computer, right? So how do you fix it? Remove something. Oh, sorry, that's the guy's hand. Remove. Remove. Hand up, hand down, origin of the hand, creates contrast, whatever. You fix a lot of this counting the fingers game. Okay, thank you, thank you. Okay, guys, in this pose, you can see some framing going on. Do you see the framing?
Yes.
But the frame is in focus, and so is the couple, and so is the background. Now, where is the gift of this pose? Let's look at the gifts of this pose, of this location. Go ahead, Mallory. Give me a shot.
The framing.
You got framing, right? Fran, give me another one.
The background, the color.
The background is single family of colors.
Yeah. the
That's
colors.
excellent. What's the element of interest in this location? There's the framing is one, but there's another one that's very obvious. Just the door,
Oh, the door.
right? The door's right there. So should they be in front of the only and the main element of interest? No. You want to use the door on the left and put them on the right to balance it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Are we showing too much context? It's like the floor showing, the shoes are showing, like everything is showing. Okay? What are the gifts in this location? David, go ahead.
The repetitive background.
Can you come up and show where's the repetitive stuff that you see?
Right here.
That's it. So when you're posing, you put the bride by herself, you do whatever it takes to just show that little gift. Okay? If you start showing the sky and all this stuff, you throw away all the gifts that you had. Now, what else is going on with their arms that's not very good, Pepe?
They're too straight, and that
No, they are
it's too stiff. I mean,
close, but they are,
90 degrees.
they're mirroring.
Oh, I
They're
see.
both doing the same thing. It looks like you're forcing them to pose. It looks tacky. You have to make it, clean it up. If one's hands are this way, you have to switch it over. Okay? Now, what's properly done in the face expression, Juliana?
They're looking across each other.
Their noses are crisscrossing,
Yeah.
so it looks a little more believable, but the expression, I don't believe it. The eyes, I feel like, are posed right, but it doesn't match the expression. He looks like he's just following directions. So how do you fix this? You have to inject a burst of energy into them. That's when you say, like, tell me what that skin smells like. Smell her skin and smell her skin and tell me what it smells like. And then he'll be like, what? And then he'll start laughing, you know what I mean? And then she'll be all shy because he's smelling her skin. So then you create this, the position of the heads are perfect, but then you have no injection of energy here. Like you almost finished the poem or the little poetry, and then you just kind of chopped it right there, and there's no end to it. What's wrong with her arms?
90-degree angles.
Is she the brightest person in the frame? No. So what are the three subject emphasis elements we're going to do?
Focus.
Selective focus.
Light.
The lighting, they have to be the brightest,
And the size.
or they have to be the biggest. Here, she's obviously the biggest, but it doesn't really help you. Like, you need to have the rest. See what I mean? Not to mention, there's a 90-degree on the arm. She looks like a structure. Okay? What are the gifts in this location?
Color elements.
Color. Do you see a single color there? Mm-hmm. So this photo probably could have been done just by the wall. Now that brown pole could have been a leading line, right? But then there was other elements that were introduced. You have all of this. You have these windows distracting you. You see that square? It's like a big, tall rectangle. It's just kind of sitting in the middle of nowhere. Once you introduce elements like that, it takes attention away from them. So you could have cropped that out. This is okay. It's a little bit there. This is kind of in the middle. So you could have just kind of kept it something like this, and then add directional light to his face to create dimension and depth. Okay? What's wrong with her arms?
90-degree angles.
Is the pose believable? Like, what is he doing? Right? Now, if you look at the background of this scene, there are plenty of places. Is that the most obvious frame, the one in the middle?
The green.
No, the frame. There's a frame here, right?
Oh.
Yeah.
So you're framing them, but that the tree is the element of interest. So you should have balanced the tree. But the couple is in the same place as the one big element of interest. Remember the rules about elements of interest. What's the brightest or the most distracting, right? Which one creates the most contrast? Which one's the biggest? This one's big and distracting, right? So the couple should have currently gone on this side. Okay. So do we have any questions, or do we want to...
Let's definitely take some questions before we go to lunch, if you don't
Okay.
mind.
No. Go ahead.
So great that you guys are showing your images. I know it's hard, but honestly, to get your images critiqued is the best way to learn. So I'm really enjoying this. And so thank you for sharing all of those. Okay, Roberto, we have some people that were, the concept of the invisible plane was an aha moment for them, and then some other people were a little bit confused.
Okay.
So Alana Damron asked, how does the invisible plane of angle apply to multiple subjects? And then TKY Isepic says, does that equal the center of the frame?
Oh, no.
Can
Can
you
I borrow your
clarif-
camera? Can I?
Can you clarify for peeps at home?
That invisible plane idea is an invisible thing you have to just imagine that comes out of the camera. If I was going to take a picture of Pepe here, I would choose an angle that would hit him in the eye first. If I can't, let's say you're leaning back, like you're slouching back. If you're doing this, and I'm in the same position, now this invisible plane is going to hit him in the stomach, and it's about 8 inches away from his eyes. So if I go like this, and I shoot, hits him right here, and that is about 7 inches from his eyes. Okay? So you have 2 ways to fix this. First, I would fix the pose. Your spinal cord is not straight. So I would strain it, lean forward. Now your eyes are closer to the camera. So now when I shoot my photo, this invisible plane comes out, and it hits you right on the eyeball. Okay? If you have 2 people can you sit next to him real quick? If you have 2 people, same thing. You just have 2 heads. So you're not going to shoot from here because you're just going to get the knee first, and that's going to be the center point. It's going to be what the viewer sees first. So same thing. This way, and shoot, and this comes out, and it pretty much evens out the distance between the focal plane and the faces. Okay? If I want to feature the bride, I would come around this way, and then I would shoot, and she will be the feature because she's the first thing the camera hits, and you would be out of focus. And when you do that, I would remove context. You don't have to show the whole body. It looks too much. Remember, everybody that's listening, look at your surroundings. Look for geometry, balance, symmetry, contrasts. Look for location. Look for elements of interest that could be there. Look for potential shadows, whether they're there or the ones you can create. Remember all those little things we talked about, the posing guide stuff? And remember that most important of it all is the subject emphasis. Your subject should be the brightest, the biggest, and it has to be the ones that are in focus. If you have a cool castle or whatever, you can make them smaller, but they should be brighter. If you want to show like the scene, make them the brightest, and make them the ones that are in focus.